Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the August Dairy Products Report that USDA released on Friday. This is Dr. Lawrence Jones, and I'm recording this on Sunday, October the 6th. So the Dairy Products Report is the third report that kind of pulls everything together for a month. And so what we're going to do is kind of look at everything that happened in August here. Now, I've shown you before that overall production minus disappearance equals the residual. But we can actually rewrite this a little bit and say that disappearance is production minus the residual, because production is actually the dairy products report and the residual is actually the cold storage report. And so we can actually figure out what the disappearance was for the month. But with this relationship, we need to understand that if production goes up, disappearance has to go up. Now, there is an argument that's saying, well, if things are really out of line, then maybe we can have some revisions in the last month or so. But put the revisions aside for the moment. If we have dairy products that look like it's higher than we expected, then disappearance must be higher than we expected. So this is how everything came together for August. Now, there were revisions on production reports. So cheese came up a little bit, and butter was revised up just a little bit. But going into this, we thought that the residual would actually be about 10 million pounds worse than last month. Because again, we took out 13 million. Last month, we took out 3 million this month. So it looked like demand would have been about 10 million pounds less. But the actual cheese production was up about 5 million pounds over last month. So what that means is that the August disappearance will be about 5 million pounds less than July. So we started out thinking it would be down about 10 million, but it's down about 5 million. So to me, this is actually a little bit more friendly than what it could have been. Now, butter production is down just a little bit from last month, but no big changes in that at all. Now, we'll see in just a minute that almost 64% of the milk went into cheese, and that was fairly high. Going into this report, we thought that cheese production would be down a little bit based on the federal milk marketing data. And I kind of scratched my head about this for a little bit until I went back and calculated that only about 60% of the class 3 is actually in the federal milk marketing data. So, for example, all of Idaho is not in the federal milk marketing orders. And so all that data is not going to be included in this. So again, there's probably just a little bit of noise in here. And so this cheese production actually came up a little bit. We'll look at a bunch of graphs now. So this is the ratio of cheese to milk. And more milk is going into making cheese than what I would call historic. And in fact, this is the highest percentage that we've had, across the last 10 years. So milk production might be shrinking, but it's not shrinking cheese production. This is the daily cheese production. We're about 38,630,000 pounds a day. And this is the highest cheese production for August. That's incorrect. That should say August. And we can actually look at the rolling numbers now. And so the blue line is above the black line. And that says that demand or disappearance is better than production. So less cheese is being made than is disappearing. For example, our rolling disappearance about 39.2 million, and our August production is 38.6. We're about 600,000 pounds short of actually meeting the demand. We've got a 35.5 days of surplus cheese. That's been as high as 38.6 on an annual basis. And this says we need about 9.4 million cows, and we're about 9.32. So in fact, this would all suggest that the herd is not big enough to meet the overall cheese demand. Historically, the percentage of cheese that's Italian has been declining. We're declining just a little bit. This represents about 43% of the total cheese. This was right at trend line on that percentage. The next biggest piece is American, and that includes cheddar. And that's been increasing just a little bit, but this is below trend line. And if we look specifically at cheddar, it actually has been decreasing over time, and it's below trend line. So that's kind of an interesting situation is where the majority of the cheese is not included in the pricing of milk for price discovery. Only cheddar is used for price discovery, and that's only about 29% of the total cheese. The other cheeses, were just a little bit above trend line. So the ratio of Italian cheeses, was at trend line while cheddar is below, and that's been coming down. If we look at American cheese, my graphs actually broke here. I'm not 100% sure that they should have. But anyway, I'm suggesting that American cheese has actually been flat for the last 2 years. Now, it's had a significant burst back here in 2023, but since then it has been fairly low. Cheddar, for example, has been reasonably flat for the last 3 years. I'm surprised it didn't actually pick up this year 4 here, but I would say for August, cheddar production has been fairly flat. Italian type cheeses, however, has been increasing. This did split, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back to a single uptrend here this next month. And this is the highest that we've had for Italian type cheeses in August. Whey production is falling off. Now this was an outlier here this last year, but whey production is clearly down where it's been historically. We just kind of look at the spot market relative with the National Dairy Sales Report. Prices for cheese have been, we've had this significant run up. So the October numbers were $2.28 for cheese. We've had this fall off now, but cheese has been running from, $1.55 up to $2.04, and then that high at $2.28. This is the percent of fat that butter represents, and usually, it's going to be around 16, 17%. This is coming up just a little bit. So butter is taking up more of the fat than usual. Again, we've always got to remind ourselves, and I've shown you this graph several times, that the percent fats are just continuing to increase in milk, which has given us more cream overall. And our daily butter production is very seasonal, with the low generally being in August. But this is an upward trend, and again, I'm surprised it kind of cut this here, probably this outlier, which caused that statistical difference. But overall, this is probably going to go into a straight uptrend. One of the things that we can calculate is, kind of the ratio of butter to non-fat dry milk, because if all of the butter is being derived from skim plants, then this is going to be fairly constant. Now, all of a sudden, this has gone fairly high. So it's saying that we've got cream coming from other sources than a powder plant. And this is at a kind of a record high at this point, butter relative to non-fat dry milk. Now, it's interesting that the value of butter relative to class 4 and non-fat dry milk has been dropping. So again, prior to August 2022, butter was always the stepchild. After that, it kind of became the golden child with a big high here in October of 23. Fell off a little bit, came back up, but now it's coming down to zero again. So basically, I think we're starting to flood the market a little bit in butter just because we're skimming so much off of other products. Ice cream production is very seasonal, and the August production has been fairly flat. Yogurt production is also very cyclical, but it's increasing over time. And so yogurt, I thought, was kind of falling out of favor for a little while, but it seems to have jumped back in here. And the one that is really in favor right now is cottage cheese. This has just been rocketing up ever since 2022 kind of time frame. And this is just, continuing to take off. Very small volumes, admitted, but still definitely an increase. All right, so we got the dairy products report on Friday. We're kind of in this period where we're not going to get a lot of reports until we get the milk production report, which is not going to come out clear to the 21st. We do have a holiday coming up. So next week, we're just going to have the National Dairy Sales Report and then our usual reports. So the next milk market tidbit will be for the statistical uniform prices, which will be around the 15th or 16th by the time we get all 11 orders.